one of the most emotional times in anyone's life is when there's a death in the family. And obviously, there are things that accompany that which need to take place. There's funerals, burials. There's details that need to be uh, taken care of. And given that, it can also be one of the most frustrating times to get those things done in a proper and correct manner. And so this video is to be an extension of under the city government category, because it is something that I do deal with, and it needs to be enlightened as far as uh, what is proper and what is not proper. So I have uh, 3, 4 points that everyone needs to consider when they are preparing for funeral service, or afterwards if you're planning to put monuments or grave markers on the plot. Number one is when you make out your purchase for a lot, you are given a deed, and it is so important. And this is one of the most overlooked things. You need to check your deed as far as what your rights are. Most deeds will give you, it'll state that you have the right to a burial plot, and you have the right to one grave marker. Now, beyond that, it is up to the local laws and ordinances of the city. So, number one is to always check your deed, and this is all encompassing, um, what you need for your grave, and what you want versus what you can have. So, number one is to always check your deed. Number two, like I just mentioned, the laws and ordinances of your local government, your local city, is public information. It is about you, and you have the right to have a copy of those laws and ordinances. So I would also suggest that you go to um, your city hall and request a copy of the laws and ordinances regarding your cemetery, and they will get them for you at no charge. You can also, and this is something I highly recommend, there is no better person that knows what you can and cannot do on yours or a family's gravesite that you oversee than the cemetery sexton. Now, the sexton is basically the person who oversees the cemetery. They are the director, they are the department head for the city's cemetery. And so, it's my advice that uh, that be the first person that you go to as far as what you if you are planning something or you have a wish for something, like you have a specific kind of grave marker that you want, that should be the first person that you should actually talk to. He will know what can and cannot happen up there, because um, he is one of the few person that is the most uh, articulate in the laws and ordinances of your local city. at least in regarding to the cemetery. So do that. Now, sometimes there is a huge disconnect because the family will often go to the monument company or go through the funeral home directly in preparing a grave marker, whether it be a large monument, whether it be an urn, a bench. Uh, there's 1,000 things. And you have to remember that whether it's a monument company or a funeral home, it's a company, and their basic idea is to get a sale. But every monument company, every funeral home has and is bound to have a copy of the laws and ordinances of that city regarding the cemetery. And it is the uh, proper thing, it is the most ethical thing for any funeral home or monument company to consult and work with a customer in regards to a grave marker. They should know what is and is not proper. And so the most highly disruptive thing that uh, any company can do is to go ahead and do something when they know darn well that they haven't checked to see if it's actually proper, because they want that sale. And when it comes to monument or funeral homes, we're talking big sales. That's a lot of money. A grave marker is in the thousands of dollars. And so, you talk to the sexton, and when you as a customer talk to the funeral home or the monument company, you ask them to check with the cemetery sexton before this sale is final. And they have to do that. Um, I've just recently had a instance where a local resident was dissatisfied with the response and conversation that she had with our cemetery sexton. And she's healthy, but her husband died close to 23 years ago. And her plans are to be cremated as he was and to be placed beside him. Now, uh, and this is a half lot, not a full lot. So she purchased a half lot for this. Now, what she's wanting now is to place a stone bench. And you go out to any cemetery, you'll see these benches. They're cool. But she wants it placed on the inside of her lot. And so, and that caused a problem, um, because where it's placed, where she's wanting it placed, is not against any pathway or drive which is necessary by city ordinance. But because where it's placed, you're gonna have to remove that bench anytime a burial is need to be dug, uh, on any side of it. You're going to have to move it to make room. And that adds time, effort, money to the city. And so not only was this breaking a city ordinance to want that on there, it is also adding a future price onto the city. And so I had invited her to our cemetery board meeting, and it was discussed, and we looked up the city ordinance, and it was actually very much more clear than I had expected. But she was made aware that she cannot do this, and now her main point of being irate is that her and her daughter had already purchased this monument. It's already been inscribed and ready to be placed. And so, and like I said at the top, you know, when you're dealing with death and cemeteries, you're dealing with strong emotions, and those often cloud your judgment. And so, you know, what she tried to do was pin that expense that they've already laid down. You know, I think she said they paid half of it, which is over $1,000. Try to pin that on the city, and it was our responsibility to let her know that no, the monument company never checked with us to see if it was the right thing to do in the first place and lawful. And so, uh, you know, that's how emotional uh, things can get when making funeral and grave marker arrangements. And so again, you know, a cemetery sexton is one of the least respected um, jobs out there, and he deals with these emotions all the time. So those are the points that I want to make, that is so important for everyone wanting to make funeral arrangements. Check the deed to the lot. Look it over. See exactly what your rights are and what you don't have a right to. Get a copy of the laws and ordinances of your local city cemetery. It is public information and it is free of charge. Discuss with your cemetery sexton directly what your plans are. What kind of grave marker do you want? He will let you know if it's okay, because he oversees the cemetery. And make sure that your monument company and or funeral home is working directly and keeping in contact with the cemetery sexton. They have to do that. Make sure they also have a copy of the city laws and ordinances regarding cemeteries. They should have that as well. And so, you know, those are the points that I wanted to make, and obviously it's been inspired by this recent instance uh, of a disgruntled local resident that is not satisfied to this very moment. Understandably, you know, these are it's a very trying time for any family to make grave arrangements when you're dealing with a family member. You're dealing with their body, whether it's cremated or not. And so it's very important to approach it with not a confrontational attitude, whether it be from the perspective of the city to the customer or the customer to the city. You need to calm your jets down and be respectful and understanding of each other's point. But in the end, what you need to make sure is that the laws and ordinances are being upheld. Um, because what often happens is with emotional issues, a customer will automatically run to the mayor or run to a city council or some other government person because they want leniency in their wants and desires, and oftentimes they'll get it. But what you do when you get these leniencies is you set a precedence. You open wide the unnecessary things that's going to happen in the future. And so those are my points at this time, and hopefully it helps somebody out there. But have a good day.